Have you ever felt trapped in a life that doesn't feel like your own? Stuck in a relentless loop, waking up to the same routine, weighed down by past failures, lost in distractions that drain your energy. You tell yourself that tomorrow will be different, that next week you'll change, that someday you'll take control. But that day never comes. And the worst part, deep down, you know time is slipping away. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at his time, faced the same struggles. Despite ruling an empire, he battled doubt, fatigue, and the crushing weight of responsibility. But he discovered something profound. The key to freedom is not in changing the world around you, it's in resetting your mind, restarting with wisdom, refocusing on what truly matters. This is not just a lesson in philosophy, this is a blueprint for reclaiming your life. If you feel lost, overwhelmed, or stuck, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to break the cycle, not tomorrow. Now stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change everything. 1. Reset, the power of letting go. Ethan had spent years building his company from the ground up. Sleepless nights, relentless sacrifices, and an unshakable vision had fueled his journey. Yet, despite his efforts, a market crash wiped out everything he had worked for. Investors withdrew, debts mounted, and within months, his empire crumbled. What haunted him most wasn't just the financial loss, it was the humiliation. The whispers of colleagues who once respected him, the silent judgment of friends, and the gnawing feeling that he had failed not just himself, but everyone who had believed in him. He replayed every decision, every mistake, every missed opportunity, trapped in an endless loop of what-ifs. This is the weight of the past. It latches onto the mind, clings to your identity, and convinces you that you are nothing but your failures. It turns into a prison where the walls are built not of reality, but of regret. Ethan wasn't alone in this. Millions of people live bound to a version of themselves that no longer exists, holding on to a story that no longer serves them. The question is, how do you let go? Marcus Aurelius, the last of the 5 good emperors, ruled Rome through plagues, wars, and betrayals. The weight of an empire sat on his shoulders, and yet, amidst the chaos, he found clarity in a simple truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Meditations. The past is an outside event. It is unchangeable, untouchable. What exists now is only your perception of it, your attachment to it, and your decision to either dwell in it or move beyond it. Letting go is not an act of forgetting. It is an act of reclaiming power. It is the conscious decision to say, "This moment is mine, and I refuse to let the weight of yesterday define today." It is understanding that no amount of reflection will rewrite the past, but every decision you make now can shape the future. But why is it so hard? Why do we hold on to pain, failure, and betrayal as if they were precious? The answer lies in identity. We become addicted to the familiar, even when it hurts us. We fear that if we release the past, we might lose a part of who we are. But what if that part of you was never meant to stay? What if growth requires shedding old skin, just as a snake must shed its layers to continue thriving? Think about the last time you held on to something that no longer served you, a toxic relationship, a failed ambition, a version of yourself that you had long outgrown. Why did you cling to it? Was it out of fear, comfort, a false sense of obligation? Now, imagine your life without it. What possibilities could emerge in the space left behind? This is the paradox of letting go. It feels like loss, but in reality, it is the most profound gain. A common misconception is that letting go means erasing the past. But that is impossible. The past is part of you, but it does not have to define you. Think of it like an old book you once loved. It shaped you, taught you lessons, but you don't need to keep reading the same chapter forever. At some point, you must turn the page and start a new story. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, wrote in letters to Lucilius, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The irony of letting go is that it feels like destruction, but in reality, it is the birth of something greater. The space you create by releasing old burdens allows new opportunities, relationships, and growth to enter your life. Imagine someone carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents a regret, a grudge, or a painful memory. The longer they carry it, the heavier it becomes. Eventually, they are exhausted, unable to move forward. But what if, instead of focusing on the weight, they started dropping the stones one by one? With each release, they would feel lighter, freer, more able to walk toward their future. This is what happens when you truly let go. If you're ready to reset, start with this simple exercise. Take a journal, a piece of paper, or even your phone. Write down 3 things that are weighing you down, whether it's a mistake, a grudge, or an expectation that no longer serves you. Next to each one, ask yourself, is this contributing to my growth or keeping me stagnant? If it is holding you back, make the conscious decision to release it. This doesn't mean you forget it. It means you stop giving it the power to control you. Ethan, after years of torment, finally did this exercise. He wrote down his 3 burdens: the fear of judgment, the belief that he had permanently failed, and the idea that he was unworthy of success. When he looked at them on paper, he realized something profound. They were illusions. The judgment of others would fade. Failure was simply a lesson, and his worth was never defined by external validation. For the first time in years, he felt free, not because his circumstances had changed, but because his mind had. Letting go is not passive. It is an act of courage. It is a declaration that you refuse to be a prisoner of what no longer exists. And when you do it, when you truly release the past, you don't just reset your mind, you reset your entire life. 2. Restart. Turning obstacles into opportunities. Thomas was 25 when his dream collapsed. He had trained for years to become a professional athlete, pushing his body beyond its limits, enduring injuries, and sacrificing everything for the one thing that gave his life meaning: competition. But in a single moment, a career-ending injury shattered that reality. His identity, purpose, and future all wiped out in an instant. He spiraled into depression, unable to envision a life beyond the one he had lost. For months, he lived in a haze of regret and self-pity, convinced that everything he had worked for was now meaningless. He told himself that he was finished, that there was nothing left for him. But was that really true? History is filled with stories of individuals who turned devastation into transformation. One of the most overlooked examples is that of Demosthenes, a young man born in ancient Athens. Weak and frail as a child, he was frequently mocked, his voice stammering, his speech feeble. No one would have believed he could ever rise to prominence, yet, against all odds, Demosthenes refused to accept his limitations. Instead of succumbing to despair, he trained himself relentlessly. He practiced speaking with pebbles in his mouth to strengthen his voice, recited speeches against the crashing waves to refine his projection, and locked himself in a room for months to study rhetoric. The man once ridiculed for his weakness became one of the greatest orators in history. His obstacle did not destroy him, it forged him. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." It is easy to believe that misfortune is a sign to stop, that failure is proof we are unworthy. But what if every setback was not a signal to quit, but a lesson in disguise? What if hardship was not a barrier, but a doorway? Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As an emperor, he faced wars, betrayal, and political chaos, yet he saw every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, he wrote in Meditations. This is the essence of Stoicism. The challenge you face is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Imagine a man lost and wandering, his dreams shattered. He stumbles into a dimly lit room where an old philosopher sits in contemplation. The man, burdened with frustration, breaks the silence. Why is life so cruel? I have lost everything. The path I built for myself has collapsed. The philosopher looks at him, calm and unshaken. Tell me, he says, if a traveler reaches a river and finds the bridge destroyed, does he sit down and weep, or does he find another way to cross? The man sighs. But I built that bridge myself. I spent years crafting it, and now it's gone. The philosopher nods. That is the nature of life. You believed your path was permanent. You thought your bridge would last forever, but the river does not care for bridges. It moves forward, with or without them. So must you. The man clenches his fists. But I don't know what to do. I was meant to be on that path. It was my destiny. The philosopher leans forward. Your destiny is not the path. It is the journey. The obstacle before you is not the end of your road. It is merely a turn. You can sit here, mourning the bridge, or you can begin building a new one. A silence fills the room. The man exhales, as if releasing the weight of his despair. Thomas, like Demosthenes and so many others before him, had to learn this lesson himself. He could not change the past. His career as an athlete was over. But what if his abilities, his discipline, his experience, everything he had gained, could serve a new purpose? Instead of resigning himself to failure, he used his knowledge to coach young athletes. He became the mentor he had never had, teaching others to overcome their own obstacles. And in doing so, he discovered something unexpected. He found meaning again. His greatest failure had not been the end. It had been the beginning of something new. Look at your own life. What failure are you holding on to? What closed door do you keep staring at, hoping it will reopen? Stop looking at it. Turn around. There are countless other doors, countless paths waiting to be explored. If you are ready to restart, take a moment to reflect. Think of your most recent failure, the one that still stings, the one you cannot seem to move past. Write it down. Beneath it, write 3 things it taught you. Was it patience, resilience, the realization that you were on the wrong path all along? What lesson did the obstacle bring you? This is how you restart, not by erasing the past, but by learning from it, not by fighting the obstacle, but by using it to fuel your growth. The path ahead is not blocked. You are simply being redirected. 3. Refocus, directing energy towards what truly matters. Daniel had everything he thought he wanted: an impressive job title, a packed schedule, endless emails, and meetings that left no room for a moment of silence. From the outside, he looked like a man in control, someone whose life was filled with purpose, but inside, he felt hollow. Every morning he woke up with a feeling of exhaustion that no amount of coffee could fix. His days blurred into a cycle of busyness, but at the end of each week, when he finally had a moment alone, an unsettling thought crept into his mind. Why does none of this feel meaningful? For years, Daniel had been chasing productivity, mistaking movement for progress. He was constantly doing something, answering emails, jumping between projects, keeping up with industry news, but none of it truly mattered. He had become a prisoner of distraction, caught in a web of obligations that seemed important but left him feeling empty. It wasn't until he stumbled upon the teachings of Stoicism that he realized what was happening. Seneca once wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." But most people don't. They fill their days with tasks that seem urgent but are ultimately meaningless. They spend hours on social media, replying to messages that add nothing to their lives, consumed by the illusion that being busy means being productive. But productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. The Stoics understood this deeply. To live a meaningful life, one must eliminate the unnecessary and focus only on what truly aligns with their values. This concept of focus is not just a modern struggle. History is filled with individuals who mastered the ability to direct their energy toward what truly mattered, and those who failed to do so. Take the example of Napoleon Bonaparte. A brilliant strategist, he had an unmatched ability to focus on what would give him the greatest advantage. During his early military campaigns, he concentrated on speed, surprise, and efficiency. He refused to be distracted by unnecessary battles, always keeping his vision locked on what would bring him closer to victory. But later in his career, he lost sight of this principle. When he launched his invasion of Russia in 1812, he allowed his ambition to cloud his judgment. Instead of maintaining his focus, he spread his forces thin, overcommitted, and let himself be drawn into a war of attrition. The result? His empire crumbled. His downfall was not because he lost his skill, it was because he lost his focus. Daniel realized he was making the same mistake. He had spent years scattering his energy across 1,000 minor battles, trying to win every approval, respond to every demand, and meet every expectation. But in doing so, he had neglected what truly mattered: his health, his personal relationships, and his own sense of purpose. So, he made a decision. He would cut out the noise. He stopped saying yes to every meeting that added no real value. He put strict limits on social media. He stopped chasing approval from people who wouldn't remember his name in a year. Instead, he channeled his energy into what truly mattered to him: his well-being, his relationships, and the long-term goals he had abandoned in the name of busyness. This principle of cutting distractions and focusing on what is essential is the foundation of mental minimalism, a core concept in Stoicism. Just as physical clutter suffocates a space, mental clutter suffocates the mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this in Meditations. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or do what's essential. The ability to focus is not about willpower, it is about clarity. When you know what is truly important, distractions lose their grip on you. This idea is not limited to individuals. Entire civilizations have either risen or collapsed based on their ability to focus on what truly mattered. The Roman Republic, in its early days, thrived because it remained disciplined and focused on the core values that had built its strength: order, resilience, and civic duty. But as Rome grew into an empire, it became obsessed with expansion, luxury, and internal power struggles. The distraction of endless indulgence weakened its core, making it vulnerable to external threats. In contrast, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan succeeded precisely because it maintained an intense focus on a singular goal: military dominance through strategic efficiency. The Mongols did not waste resources on unnecessary luxuries or distractions. Their ability to direct their energy toward one clear objective made them an unstoppable force. The same principle applies to personal life. Imagine standing in a vast field, holding a magnifying glass under the sun. If you move it around constantly, trying to burn everything, nothing will catch fire. But if you hold it steady, focusing all the energy on a single point, a flame ignites. This is how focus works. Scattered energy accomplishes nothing. Concentrated energy changes everything. If you feel like your life is slipping through your fingers, ask yourself, where is my energy going? Take out a piece of paper. Write down the 3 things you spend the most time on each day. Then ask yourself, do these things bring me closer to my goals and values? Or are they just distractions disguised as obligations? If they are distractions, start cutting them out. Focus only on what adds value to your life. Most people will never do this exercise. They will continue to drift, spending years on things that mean nothing, only to wake up one day and realize they have run out of time. But you are different. You have the ability to refocus, to reclaim your energy, to channel it into something meaningful. The question is, will you? 4th, rebuild, mastering the Stoic way of life. Ethan had reset his mind, restarted his journey, and refocused on what truly mattered, but something still felt off. Despite his newfound clarity, old habits crept back in. He still felt the pull of distractions, the weight of self-doubt, and the occasional temptation to slip into his former patterns. He had let go of the past, but how could he ensure that this wasn't just another fleeting moment of inspiration? How could he sustain this new way of life? Change is not a single decision, it is a discipline. Most people believe that once they have an epiphany, everything will fall into place. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, did not rely on willpower alone to maintain his principles. He wrote in Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." He understood that transformation is not about occasional bursts of motivation. It is about daily habits, structured discipline, and unwavering commitment. History has shown that those who achieve lasting success are not the ones who have the most talent, luck, or resources, but those who have systems in place to sustain their progress. Consider Leonardo da Vinci. Most people see him as a genius, but few realize that his brilliance was not simply the result of innate talent. It was the product of relentless practice and structured discipline. He kept meticulous notebooks, tracked his progress daily, and approached his work with the same consistency as a soldier preparing for battle. His genius was built on a framework of mastery. Ethan realized that to truly rebuild himself, he needed a Stoic system, a daily routine that would anchor his growth, ensuring that his transformation was not just a phase, but a permanent shift. He looked at the foundational pillars of Stoicism and created a structure around them. First, he embraced the habit of morning reflection. Instead of waking up and diving into the chaos of emails, notifications, and obligations, he followed Marcus Aurelius's practice, taking time in the morning to set his intention for the day. He would ask himself, what is within my control today? What virtues will I practice? What distractions must I avoid? By starting each day with clarity, he ensured that his mind was prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. Second, he developed the practice of preparing for adversity. Seneca called this premeditatio malorum, the visualization of potential hardships before they happen. Instead of fearing the unexpected, Ethan would anticipate difficulties, preparing his mind to handle them with calmness. Each morning, he would ask himself, what setbacks might I face today? How will I respond with resilience? This practice removed his fear of failure, replacing it with the confidence that he could face whatever came his way. But mental preparation was not enough. Ethan needed a structure for his actions. He adopted the philosophy of essentialism, ensuring that each day was spent on only the most important tasks. Inspired by Marcus Aurelius's words, "Do less, do only what is essential," he built his schedule around what truly mattered: his personal growth, his health, and his deeper purpose. He stopped saying yes to unnecessary obligations. He prioritized deep work over shallow busyness. He eliminated distractions that added no value to his life. Still, Ethan knew that self-improvement was not just about what he did. It was about who he surrounded himself with. The Stoics believed in the power of community. Epictetus advised, "Above all, keep a close watch on this, that you are never so tied to your former acquaintances and friends that you are pulled down to their level." Ethan took this to heart. He evaluated his relationships. Were they pushing him forward or holding him back? He made a conscious decision to surround himself with people who embodied the values he wanted to cultivate. He found mentors, joined communities of like-minded individuals, and distanced himself from influences that dragged him toward complacency. One of the most important elements of Ethan's Stoic routine became his evening reflection. Every night before he went to bed, he followed Seneca's advice and reviewed his day. What did I do well today? Where did I falter? How can I improve tomorrow? This habit ensured that his growth was not just something he hoped for. It was something he actively measured and refined daily. The result? Ethan's transformation was no longer fragile. It was fortified by a structured way of life. He was no longer someone who merely understood Stoic principles. He lived them. If you truly want to rebuild yourself, if you want your transformation to last, you must do the same. Motivation will fade. Inspiration is fleeting. But systems will carry you forward when your willpower runs dry. Start now. Create your Stoic framework. Begin each day with intention. Anticipate difficulties before they arrive. Strip away distractions. Surround yourself with the right people. And each night, hold yourself accountable. Do this, and your growth will not be temporary. It will be inevitable. The 7-Day Stoic Reset Challenge. The Path to Unbreakable Strength. Knowledge is useless without action. Now that you've learned how to reset, restart, and refocus, it's time to put it into practice. This is not just another self-improvement exercise. This is your challenge. 7 days to transform your mindset, build resilience, and embrace the Stoic way of life. For too long, you have absorbed ideas, nodded in agreement, and felt inspired, only to let that inspiration fade. Not this time. This time, you take action. For the next 7 days, I challenge you to wake up each morning and dedicate yourself to mastering one Stoic principle. Each day will bring a lesson, a test, and a practical step toward becoming the unshakable person you were meant to be. Are you ready? Day 1. The Art of Letting Go. You have spent too much time and energy worrying about things you cannot control. The weather, other people's opinions, the past, the future. But what if you could be free? What if you could wake up and feel light, unburdened by the weight of things that do not belong to you? Today, your task is simple. Write down 3 things that are causing you stress, but that you cannot control. Read them aloud. Then remind yourself, this is outside my control. I choose to let it go. You may feel resistance. Your mind may whisper, but I need to fix this. Ignore it. Train yourself to let go. Come back to this video tomorrow and tell me, what did you release? Day 2. Reframing obstacles. Life is not happening to you. It is happening for you. Every setback, every failure, every hardship, these are not signs to give up. They are your training ground. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Today, I want you to think about your most recent failure. Write about it, but instead of dwelling on the pain, extract the lesson. What did this failure teach you? How can it make you stronger? If you do this honestly, something will shift inside you. You will stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as stepping stones. Drop a comment below. What lesson did your failure give you? Day 3. Radical acceptance. Most people spend their lives resisting reality. They fight what is, wishing things were different, agonizing over circumstances they cannot change. The Stoics did the opposite. They embraced every moment, good or bad, with a simple mantra: amor fati, love your fate. Today, whenever something frustrating happens, pause, take a breath, and say, amor fati. If you're stuck in traffic, if you get bad news, if something doesn't go your way, accept it. Welcome it. Treat it as part of your journey. Acceptance is not weakness. It is power. The power to move forward without resistance, to let go of unnecessary suffering. At the end of the day, come back here and share. What did you embrace today that you would normally resist? Day 4. The power of discipline. You say you want to change, you say you want a better life, but do your actions match your words? Today is about proving to yourself that you can do hard things. Pick one thing you've been avoiding: exercise, waking up early, reading, working on a goal, and do it today. No excuses, no delays, just action. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." You are stronger than you think. Show yourself. Comment below. What challenge did you conquer today? Day 5. Memento mori, embracing mortality. One day you will die. That is not a threat. It is a truth. The Stoics did not fear death. They used it as a reminder to live fully. Today, spend 5 minutes in deep reflection. If today was your last day, what would you do differently? Would you waste time scrolling through nonsense? Would you hold back your love? Would you hesitate? Now take one thing from that reflection and do it today. Tell me, what did you do differently today because you remembered that life is finite? Day 6. The daily reflection. Seneca advised, each night before you sleep, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What could I improve? What will I do better tomorrow? Today, write down 3 things you did well and 1 thing you will improve tomorrow. This practice is simple but life-changing. It forces you to reflect, grow, and hold yourself accountable. Do not let a single day slip away unnoticed. Track your progress. Be aware of your own evolution. Post your reflection in the comments. What did you do well today? Day 7. Taking action. Most people will finish this challenge and feel good for a moment. Then they will go back to their old habits. But you are not most people. Today, choose one lesson from this challenge that impacted you the most. Commit to practicing it for the next 30 days. Write your commitment in the comments. Say it aloud. Tell someone. Make it real. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Don't just think about becoming better. Become better. The final challenge, will you take this seriously? If you have made it to day 7, you are already ahead of most people. But this is not the end. This is the beginning. From now on, return to this video every morning. Before you start your day, re-watch this challenge. Remind yourself of the principles. Hold yourself accountable. Comment daily with your progress. Let this be your anchor, your guide, your commitment to living with purpose. Leave a comment right now. What was your biggest takeaway from this challenge? And if you're truly ready to go deeper, subscribe, turn on notifications, and make this a daily practice. Because Stoicism is not something you learn, it is something you live. This is your moment. Take it. Life is not something that happens to you. It is something you shape with your actions, your mindset, and your discipline. You now hold the tools to reset your mind, restart your journey, and refocus on what truly matters. But knowing these principles is not enough. The real test begins now. Will you take what you've learned and apply it? Or will you let it fade into just another fleeting moment of inspiration? Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his time, yet his greatest conquest was not over lands or people, it was over himself. He understood that true power comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering the mind. And now, that power is in your hands. If this journey has resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Leave a comment below and share your biggest takeaway. What part of this video challenged you the most? What will you commit to practicing daily? Let this be your declaration, your first step toward a life of resilience and purpose. If you found value in this, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe for more content on Stoic wisdom and self-mastery. Turn on notifications so you never miss an opportunity to grow. I will leave you with one final thought. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. So I ask you, what will you do today to truly live? The choice is yours. See you in the next video.